The morning sun cast long shadows across the dusty workshop floor as Giwon wiped grease from his hands with an old cloth. The mechanical shop on Kepler 442B had seen better days. Paint peeled from the walls, tools lay scattered on workbenches, and the smell of burnt oil hung in the air like a constant reminder of their struggles. Giwon looked around at his team. They had been working together for 5 years now, but lately work had become harder to find. The big corporations were taking most of the repair contracts, leaving small shops like theirs to fight over scraps. Minho was hunched over an old engine, trying to coax life back into its worn cylinders. His thick fingers moved with practiced skill, but even he couldn't work miracles. The engine belonged to a farmer who could barely afford to pay them. It was the third such job this week. "Boss, this thing is more rust than metal," Minho called out, his voice echoing in the empty shop. "I can fix it, but it won't last more than a few months." Hiram looked up from her workstation where she was repairing a navigation computer. Her small hands moved quickly over the circuit boards, replacing damaged components with salvaged parts. "At least it's work," she said quietly. "My daughter needs new shoes for school." Kisiok was welding a crack in a ship's hull panel, sparks flying around his protective mask. The tall man worked steadily, but Giwon could see the worry in his posture. They all knew the shop was in trouble. Nari cleaned weapons components at her station, her movements precise and careful. She had learned her trade in the Colonial Defense Force before joining their team. Even she looked concerned about their future. Doyan sat at the main computer, trying to find new contracts on the local job boards. His fingers moved over the keyboard, but his expression grew more frustrated with each passing minute. "Nothing good here, boss," he said. "Just more small jobs that barely pay for parts." Giwon sighed and walked to the small office at the back of the shop. The bills were piling up on his desk. Rent was due in 2 weeks, and they didn't have enough money to cover it. He had started this business with dreams of building something, lasting something that could support his team and their families. Now it looked like those dreams were crumbling. The computer on his desk chimed softly. A new message had arrived through the encrypted communication channel they used for sensitive contracts. Giwon frowned. They rarely received messages through that channel, and when they did, it usually meant military or government work. He opened the message and read it twice, then read it again. The words seemed too good to be true. "Restoration contract available. Large starship requires complete mechanical overhaul. Timeline 30 days. Payment 5 million credits upon completion. Discretion required. Accept or decline within 12 hours." Giwon stared at the screen. 5 million credits was more money than their shop made in 2 years. It was enough to pay off all their debts, upgrade their equipment, and keep the business running for years to come. But something about the message felt strange. No details about the ship, no information about the client, and the demand for discretion raised red flags. He called his team into the office. The 5 mechanics crowded around his desk as he showed them the message. 5 million, Minho whistled low. "That's real money, boss. What kind of ship needs that much work?" "Must be something big," Kisiok said, studying the message. "Maybe a military vessel or a corporate flagship." Hiram looked worried. "Why all the secrecy? Legitimate clients usually want to meet face to face." "Could be dangerous," Nari added. "Anonymous contracts sometimes mean illegal work." Doyan was already running searches on his portable computer. "I can't find any record of this client in the standard databases." The message came through heavy encryption, bounced through multiple servers. "Someone really doesn't want to be identified." Giwon leaned back in his chair, considering their options. The smart thing would be to decline and look for safer work, but safe work wasn't paying the bills, and his team was struggling. Minho had 3 children to feed. Hiram was a single mother. Kisiok was supporting his elderly parents. They all depended on this shop for their livelihood. "What do you all think?" Giwon asked, looking at each of his mechanics in turn. "I say we take it," Minho said immediately. "We need the money, and we're good at what we do. How hard can it be to fix?" "One ship, I agree with," Minho Kisiok said. "We've worked on everything from shuttles to cargo haulers. A big restoration job is just more of the same work." Hiram still looked uncertain. "What if it's stolen property? What if we get in trouble with the authorities?" The message came through legitimate channels, Doyan pointed out. "If it was completely illegal, they wouldn't use the standard contractor networks." Nari was quiet for a moment, then nodded slowly. "I've seen a lot of shady deals in my time with the Defense Force. This feels different. Secretive, yes, but not necessarily criminal. Someone just wants privacy." Giwon made his decision. He typed a response accepting the contract and sent it before he could change his mind. Within minutes, another message arrived with coordinates and instructions. The ship would be delivered to their location within 48 hours. All materials and specialized tools would be provided. They were to begin work immediately upon delivery and maintain complete confidentiality about the project. 2 days later, the sound of massive engines filled the air above their workshop. The team gathered outside to watch as an enormous automated cargo hauler descended from the sky. The ship was easily 3 times the size of their workshop. its hull scarred and weathered from years of use. The cargo hauler's belly opened with a mechanical groan, and slowly, carefully, it lowered its cargo to the ground beside their shop. What they saw took their breath away. The ship was unlike anything they had ever seen. It was clearly very old, but even covered in dust and showing signs of damage, it radiated an aura of power and sophistication. The hull was made of some kind of dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Strange symbols were etched along its sides, worn smooth by time but still visible. The design was elegant and alien, with curves and angles that hurt to look at too long. "What is that thing?" Minho whispered, walking slowly around the ship. "I've never seen anything like it," Kisiok said, running his hand along the hull. "This metal is incredible. It's warm to the touch, and look at these joints. The craftsmanship is amazing." Hiram was already setting up her diagnostic equipment. "The power signature is off the charts. Whatever this thing is, it's not human." "No kidding," Nari said, examining what looked like weapon ports along the ship's sides. "These are military-grade systems, but the design is completely foreign." Doyan was taking readings with his computer. "I'm not getting any matches in the ship databases. This design doesn't exist in any records I can access." Guan stared at the mysterious vessel and wondered what they had gotten themselves into. Whatever this ship was, whoever had built it, it was clearly far beyond anything they had worked on before. But they had accepted the contract, and 5 million credits was still 5 million credits. "Well, team," he said, clapping his hands. "Together, let's get to work. We have 30 days to bring this beauty back to life." None of them could have imagined that they were looking at the personal flagship of the most powerful ruler in the galaxy. They saw only a challenge, a puzzle to solve, and the promise of a better future for their families. In their simple workshop on a frontier world, they were about to begin the most important work of their lives. The next morning, Jiawan's team gathered around the alien ship with their tools and equipment. The vessel looked even more impressive in the daylight. Its dark hull gleamed with an inner light that seemed to pulse gently, like a sleeping heart. "Where do we even start?" Minho asked, staring up at the massive ship. "I've never seen engines like these before." "First, we need to understand what we're dealing with," Guan said, pulling out his diagnostic scanner. "Let's map out the ship's systems and see what needs repair." Kisiok was already examining the hull with his instruments. "This is incredible," he said, his voice filled with wonder. "The metal is repairing itself. Look at this scratch I made with my knife yesterday. It's almost completely gone." Hiram connected her computer to one of the external ports she had found. "I'm getting readings, but they don't match any known ship designs. The power core is still active, but it's running on something I can't identify." "Not fusion?" Doyan asked, looking over her shoulder at the strange readings. "No, not fusion, not antimatter either. This is something completely different." Hiram frowned at her screen. "The energy output is massive, but I can't detect any fuel consumption." Nari was examining the weapon systems, her trained eye recognizing military hardware despite the alien design. "These aren't just weapons," she said. "They are works of art. Look at the precision of these components. Every piece fits together perfectly." As the days passed, the team discovered more amazing features. The ship's life support system could to process any type of atmosphere. The navigation computer could calculate jumps across the entire galaxy in seconds. The engines were so advanced that human science couldn't even explain how they worked. Minho spent hours studying the propulsion system. "Boss, I think this thing can travel faster than light without using the jump gates," he told G1 one evening. "The engine core manipulates space itself. It's like the ship doesn't move through space, but moves space around it." "That's impossible," G1 said, but he had learned to expect the impossible from this ship. "I thought so too, but look at these readings. The math checks out. This ship could cross the galaxy in weeks, not years." Hiram made progress accessing the ship's computer systems. The alien language was unlike anything in human databases, but she was clever and patient. She found patterns in the symbols and they began to build a basic translation program. "I'm getting fragments," she reported after a week of work. "The ship's name seems to be something like Crown of Stars or Stellar Crown. There are references to an eternal throne and something called Imperial Fleet Command. Sounds like this belonged to some kind of empire," Kisiok said, welding a damaged hull panel with human tools that somehow worked perfectly on the alien metal. "A dead empire, probably," Nari added. "This ship is old. The wear patterns suggest it's been in storage for centuries." Doyon was fascinated by the navigation system. "This computer has star maps for the entire galaxy, not just our local sector, but everything. Millions of worlds, thousands of civilizations. It's like having the universe's greatest library." The more they learned about the ship, the more impressed they became. Every system was designed with perfect efficiency. The weapons could destroy entire fleets. The defenses could withstand attacks that would vaporize human ships. The technology was so advanced it seemed like magic, but they were mechanics, and mechanics solved problems. They didn't worry about the implications of what they were fixing. They focused on the work itself. "The main engine has a crack in the containment field," Minho reported. "I can fix it, but I'll need to understand how." their power systems work. The computer core has some corrupted memory blocks, Hiram said. I can repair them, but it might take some time to figure out their data storage methods. Several hull plates need replacement, Kisioke added. The good news is, I think I can make new ones using our fabrication equipment. The ship's metal seems to respond to human welding techniques. Weapon systems are mostly functional, Nari reported. A few targeting sensors need calibration, but nothing major. Navigation is working fine, Doyen said, though I'm not sure we should test the jump drive until we understand it better. They worked 12-hour days, driven by curiosity as much as the promise of payment. Each discovery led to new questions. How had this civilization built such advanced technology? Where had they gone? Why was their ship abandoned? Maybe they transcended, Hiram suggested one day during their lunch break, became beings of pure energy or something. Or maybe they were destroyed by their enemies, Nari said grimly. Even the best weapons can't protect you if you're outnumbered. Could be they just moved to another galaxy, Doyen offered. With this technology, they could go anywhere. Giwan listened to his team speculate, but he kept his focus on the work. Whatever had happened to the ship's builders, they had a job to finish. The alien technology was challenging, but his team was rising to meet that challenge. They began to make improvements. Minho found ways to increase engine efficiency by connecting human-designed backup systems. Hiram added Earth-standard safety protocols to the alien computers. Kisiok reinforced weak points in the hull using human metallurgy techniques. You know what's funny, Kisiok said one evening as they were cleaning up. We're not just fixing this ship, we're making it better. Better than the original designers. Minho asked skeptically. Different, Kisiok corrected. They built for perfection. We build for reliability. Their systems are amazing, but they don't have redundancy. If something breaks, the whole system fails. We're adding human-style backup systems, like seat belts in a racing car, Hiram added with a smile. Exactly, they built a perfect machine. We're making it a safe machine. By the end of the second week they had made remarkable progress. The ship's systems were coming online one by one. Lights glowed softly throughout the corridors. The life support hummed quietly in the background. The engines were ready for testing. I've never been part of anything like this, Doyen said as they stood on the ship's bridge, watching alien displays flicker to life. We're not just mechanics anymore. We're explorers, discovering technology that could change everything. Gaiwan nodded, feeling the same sense of wonder. They had started with a simple repair job, but they were uncovering secrets that could revolutionize space travel, energy production, and defense systems. Whatever civilization had built this ship, they had been masters of technology, but the humans were proving to be masters of something else, adaptability. They took alien perfection and made it human practical. They found ways to improve systems that had seemed flawless. They brought their own ingenuity to bear on someone else's masterpiece. As they prepared to enter the third week of work, none of them realized that their activities had triggered ancient monitoring systems. Deep in the ship's core, automated sensors were awakening after centuries of sleep. Messages were being prepared for transmission across the galaxy. The humans continued their work, proud of their progress and eager to complete their contract. They had no idea that their repairs were about to attract the attention of the most powerful empire in the galaxy. The third week began with a discovery that changed everything. Nari was cleaning the ship's command deck when she noticed something odd about one of the wall panels. The surface looked different from the others, with tiny symbols that seemed to glow faintly when touched. Hey G1, she called out. I think there's a hidden compartment here. Gaiwan hurried over to examine the panel. When he pressed his hand against the symbols, they flared with soft light, and the wall section slid open with a whisper. Inside was a small chamber filled with items that made everyone stop and stare. Ceremonial weapons hung on one wall, their blades gleaming despite their age. Ornate uniforms were carefully preserved in transparent cases, but it was the item in the center of the chamber that caught their attention. A crystalline seal the size of a dinner plate, carved with intricate symbols and pulsing with inner light. What is that? Minho asked, approaching the seal carefully. It looks important, Hiram said, pulling out her scanner. The energy readings are off the charts. This thing is generating power somehow. Doyen was already photographing the symbols on the seal. I'll run these through the translation database. Maybe we can figure out what this represents. Nari examined the weapons with professional interest. These aren't just ceremonial pieces. They're functional and they're beautiful. Look at the craftsmanship. Everything on this ship is beautiful, Kisiok said, admiring the uniforms. Even the clothes are works of art. While his team explored the hidden chamber, Dojan worked on translating the symbols. The process took several hours, but gradually the meaning became clear. When he understood what he was looking at, his face went pale. Boss, he said quietly, you need to see this. G1 looked at Doyan's computer screen. The symbols on the seal had been translated into readable text. The words made his heart race. By authority of His Imperial Majesty, Sovereign of 10,000 worlds, Master of the Eternal Fleet, Emperor Vaxilon of the Zephyrian Empire. The Zephyrian Empire, G1 whispered. That's impossible. Every human in the galaxy knew about the Zephyrian Empire. They controlled thousands of star systems and commanded fleets that could destroy entire worlds. Their technology was legendary, their power absolute. They were the dominant force in galactic politics, ruling over dozens of alien species. "Run a quantum signature analysis," Gyuan ordered. His voice tense. Doyan's fingers flew over his keyboard, accessing databases and running comparisons. What he found confirmed their worst fears. "This is the personal flagship of Emperor Vax," he said, his voice barely audible. The ship was reported lost in battle 200 years ago. It was presumed destroyed. The team stood in stunned silence. They weren't just repairing an alien ship. They were restoring the most important vessel in the galaxy, the personal transport of the being who ruled over trillions of lives. "We're dead," Minho said flatly. "When they find out we have this ship, they'll think we stole it." "Maybe not," Hiram said, though she didn't sound convinced. "We accepted a legitimate contract. We're just mechanics doing a job." "Do you think the Empire knows the ship survived?" Nari asked. "If they thought it was destroyed, maybe they're not looking for it. They'll be looking now," Kisiok said grimly. "Ancient ships don't repair themselves. Someone will notice the activity." Juan felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on him. He had accepted the contract to save his business and help his team. Now he might have doomed them all. The Zephyrian Empire didn't negotiate with thieves or trespassers. They simply eliminated threats. "What do we do?" Hiram asked, looking to Juan for guidance. "We have options," Juan said, thinking quickly. "We could contact the authorities, turn the ship over to them, and get nothing for our work," Minho protested. "We've put 3 weeks into this project. We could try to contact the Empire directly," Nari suggested. "Explain that we're contractors, not thieves." "Right," Doyon said sarcastically. "Hello, Emperor Vaxlan. We found your lost ship and decided to fix it for you. Please don't kill us." "We could run," Kisiok said quietly. "Take our families and disappear into the outer systems." "With what money?" Juan asked. "We spent everything. We had on parts and equipment for this job." The team argued for hours, but they kept coming back to the same conclusion. They were trapped. They had invested too much time and money to quit now. Their families depended on the income, and running would only make them look guilty. "We finish the job," G1 decided. "We complete the restoration and deliver the ship to our client. Maybe the whole thing will work out somehow, and if the Empire shows up," Minho asked, "then we tell them the truth. We're mechanics who accepted a contract we didn't know what we were working on." "They might believe us," Hiram said hopefully. "They might," Juan agreed, though privately he had serious doubts. Despite their fears, the team threw themselves into the work with renewed energy. If they were going to face the Empire's wrath, at least they would deliver a perfectly restored ship. Their pride as craftsmen demanded nothing less. They worked 18-hour days, pushing themselves to the limit. The ship's systems came online, faster than ever before. Minho's engine modifications were brilliant, improving efficiency beyond the original specifications. Hiram's computer upgrades added reliability without sacrificing performance. Kisiok's hull reinforcements made the ship stronger than when it was first built. "You know what's crazy?" Nari said one evening as they took a brief break. "We're doing the best work of our lives on a ship that might get us killed. At least we'll die as master craftsmen," Doyon replied with dark humor. But fear drove them to excellence. Every system was tested and retested. Every component was perfected. They added human touches throughout the ship. Backup systems, safety protocols, redundant controls. They took the Empire's perfect machine and made it even better. "The Emperor is going to get his ship back in better condition than when he lost it," Kisiok observed. "Maybe he'll appreciate the improvements," Hiram said. "Or maybe he'll be angry that we dared to modify Imperial technology." Minho countered. As the end of their 30-day deadline approached, the ship was nearly complete. It gleamed like new, its systems humming with quiet power. The bridge displays showed perfect readouts. The engines were ready for interstellar travel. The weapons were calibrated and functional. "It's beautiful," G1 said, standing on the command deck with his team. "Whatever happens to us, we can be proud of this work." "Best job we ever did," Minho agreed. "The most terrifying job we ever did," Hiram added. But even as they admired their handiwork, none of them noticed the subtle changes in the ship's behavior. Ancient monitoring systems were fully active now, sending signals across the galaxy. Automated protocols were engaging, awakening networks that had slept for centuries. In the depths of space, Imperial sensors detected the signals and began tracking their source. Admiral Vexfer, commander of the Emperor's personal fleet, received the impossible report. The lost flagship was not only intact but fully operational. The humans continued their final preparations, unaware that they had already been found. Within days, the most powerful military force in the galaxy would arrive at their quiet workshop on Kepler-442b. That their anonymous client would finally reveal himself, and G1's team would learn that some contracts carry consequences far beyond anything they could have imagined. Far across the galaxy, in the heart of the Zephyrian Empire, Admiral Vexfer stood in the command center of the Imperial Fleet headquarters. His forearms moved with practiced efficiency across multiple control panels as he processed the flood of incoming reports. The Zephyrian commander was old by his species standards, with scales that had darkened to deep purple with age and wisdom. The alert signal that interrupted his routine work sent shockwaves through his entire body. For a moment he couldn't believe what his instruments were telling him. Then the automated systems confirmed what seemed impossible. The Emperor's personal flagship, lost for 2 centuries, was transmitting status reports. Impossible, Dexter whispered in his native language, then switched to common galactic speech. Commander Zilak, verify these readings immediately. His second-in-command, a younger Zephyrian with bright blue scales, rushed to comply. Admiral, the quantum signatures match perfectly. The Imperial flagship Crown of Stars is not only intact but shows full operational status, where Dexter demanded Kepler-4 to be a human frontier world. The signals indicate complete system restoration and improved performance beyond original specifications. Dexter's mind raced. The Crown of Stars had been the Emperor's pride, a masterwork of Imperial engineering lost during the rebellion of Sector 7. Every ship in the fleet had searched for it, but they found only wreckage and debris. Emperor had mourned its loss deeply. Prepare my personal fleet, Dexter ordered. We leave immediately. Sir, should we inform His Imperial Majesty? The Admiral paused. If this was some elaborate hoax or trap, he didn't want to raise false hopes, but if the flagship had truly been found, not yet. First we investigate. If the ship is genuine, then we will inform the Emperor. Meanwhile, on Kepler-4 to be G1's team was putting the finishing touches on their restoration work. They had no idea that their activities had triggered alarms across the galaxy. Minho was in the engine room, marveling at the smooth operation of the massive power plant. The efficiency is up 15% from the original specifications, he told G1 over the communication system. The engine is actually learning from our modifications and optimizing itself. Learning? G1 asked from the bridge where he was running final systems checks. I know it sounds crazy, but the engine computer is adapting to our improvements. It's incorporating human design principles into its operation. Hiram was equally amazed by the ship's computer systems. The navigation computer has accepted all our backup protocols, she reported. It's even improved on some of them. The calculations are now 30% faster and more accurate. Kisiok was conducting final inspections of the hull. The self-repair systems have fully integrated with our reinforcement work. The hull is actually stronger now than when we started. And the weapons systems? Giwan asked. Nari's voice came through clearly from the weapons control room. Everything is perfect. The targeting systems are so precise they could hit a coin from orbit. The plasma cannons are fully charged and ready. Doyon was monitoring all communications and sensors. Boss, I'm picking up something strange on long-range sensors. Multiple ships approaching our system at high speed. Jawan felt his blood turn cold. How many ships? 12. No, 15. They're big ones, and they're not using civilian transponder codes. The team gathered on the bridge, their faces grim with worry. Through the main view screen they could see distant points of light growing brighter as the approaching fleet decelerated from faster-than-light travel. Those are Imperial ships, Nari said, recognizing the energy signatures from her military training. Battle cruisers and destroyers. They found us, Minho said quietly. Admiral Lexver's fleet entered the Kepler system with weapons powered but not targeted. He wanted answers, not a battle. As his flagship sensors focused on the surface of Kepler-4 to be, he saw something that made his heart skip a beat there. Sitting beside a modest mechanical workshop was the Crown of Stars. It looked exactly as it had 200 years ago, except for one crucial difference. It was perfect. The hull gleamed with fresh repairs. The engines glowed with contained power, and every system showed optimal performance. By the Eternal Throne, Dexter breathed. It's really there. Admiral, Commander Zilak said, we're receiving a communication. From the surface it's the humans who operate the workshop. Put them through. G1's nervous voice filled the Imperial Command Center. This is G1 Park of Park Mechanical Services. We're just contractors fulfilling a repair agreement. We don't want any trouble. Dexter studied the humans through his ship's cameras. They looked frightened but determined. More importantly, they were standing protectively around the restored flagship, not trying to run or hide. Human Exvis said, his voice carrying the authority of the Empire. You are in possession of Imperial property. Explain how you came to have the Emperor's personal flagship. We received an anonymous contract to restore a starship, Juan replied honestly. We didn't know what it was until we found the Imperial seal. We've been doing honest work, nothing more. And who gave you this contract? We don't know. Everything was handled through encrypted communications. We just needed the work. Dexter was intrigued, despite himself. The human's story was either completely true or the most elaborate lie in galactic history. But the evidence supported their claims. They had indeed restored the ship to perfect condition, and they had made improvements that Imperial engineers had never considered. Show me your work, the Admiral commanded. For the next several hours, Giwan's team gave Dexter a complete tour of the restored flagship. They explained every modification, every improvement, every human touch they had added to the Imperial design, the Admiral was amazed. These primitive humans had not only repaired advanced Imperial technology, but had actually enhanced it. Their backup systems added reliability without sacrificing efficiency. Their safety protocols provided protection without reducing performance. "How did you understand our technology so quickly?" Vexfer asked. "We didn't at first," Hiram admitted, "but we're good at figuring out how things work. Machines are machines, whether they're human or alien. And these improvements to the engine design," Minho stepped forward nervously. "The original design was perfect, but it had no redundancy. If one component failed, the whole system would shut down. We added backup systems that engage automatically if anything goes wrong." "You questioned Imperial perfection?" Dexter asked, though his tone was more curious than angry. "We added human practicality to alien perfection," Kisiok said boldly. "The ship is still perfectly efficient, but now it's also perfectly reliable." Vexfer was beginning to understand why the mysterious client had chosen these particular humans. They had done more than restore the ship, they had evolved it. They had taken Imperial engineering and made it better through the application of human ingenuity and practical thinking. "Who could have known to send them this ship?" Commander Zilak asked privately. "Someone who understood both Imperial technology and human capabilities," Vexfer replied thoughtfully. "Someone who wanted the ship improved, not just repaired." As the Admiral prepared his report for the Emperor, he realized that this situation was far more complex than a simple recovery operation, that humans had proven that they could not only work with Imperial technology but enhance it. Their collaborative approach and innovative thinking had produced results that impressed even him. More importantly, someone with the resources to move. The Emperor's flagship and the knowledge to identify the right team for the job was still out there, still anonymous, still watching. The mystery was deepening, and Nexfer suspected that the real revelation was yet to come. The humans had done their work brilliantly, but they were only part of a larger plan that someone else had set in motion. As he composed his message to Emperor Vaxlone, Vexfer chose his words carefully. The lost flagship had been found and restored beyond its original glory, but the questions surrounding its recovery suggested that forces were at work that even the Imperial fleet didn't fully understand. The humans continued their final preparations, unaware that they had already passed the first test. Soon they would meet the being whose ship they had restored so carefully, and their simple repair job would transform into something that could change the future of the galaxy. 3 days after Admiral Vexfer's fleet arrived, space above Kepler 44 to be rippled with the arrival of something far more magnificent. The Emperor's temporary flagship, Eternal Dominion, emerged from faster-than-light travel like a golden star. Being born, it was twice the size of any ship in Nexfer's fleet, its hull covered in precious metals that gleamed in the light of the system's sun. Emperor Vaxlon himself stood on the command bridge, his tall form draped in robes that seemed to contain the darkness of space itself. His face was ageless, neither young nor old, with eyes that held the wisdom of centuries. The Zephyrian ruler had governed the galaxy for over 1,000 years, and his presence carried the weight of absolute authority. "Show me," he said simply, and the main view screen displayed the surface of Kepler-44b. There sat his beloved crown of stars, restored to glory beside a humble human workshop. The Emperor's expression did not change, but those who knew him could sense his deep emotion. This ship had been more than transportation, it had been his home, his sanctuary, the symbol of his power. "The humans did this?" he asked Admiral Dexter. "Yes, Majesty. 5 mechanics, working from a small repair shop. Their work is—" The Admiral paused, searching for the right words. "It is beyond impressive. They have enhanced your flagship beyond its original capabilities, and they knew nothing of its importance." "Nothing, Majesty. They believed they were fulfilling an anonymous repair contract." Emperor Vaxlon was silent for a long moment, studying the images of the human team as they made final adjustments to his ship. They worked with dedication and skill, their movements coordinated like a well-trained military unit. But there was something else, something he had not seen in his own people for centuries. They worked together without hierarchy, sharing knowledge freely and supporting each other's efforts. "I will observe them personally," the Emperor decided. Using Imperial stealth technology, the Emperor transported himself to the surface, invisible to human senses. He positioned himself where he could watch the mechanics work without being detected. What he saw fascinated him completely. Giwan was not commanding his team like a traditional leader. Instead, he was coordinating their efforts, making sure everyone had what they needed to do their best work. When Minho encountered a problem with the engine calibration, Hiram immediately stopped her own work to help him solve it. When Kiz needed assistance with a heavy hull panel, Nari and Doyon were there without being asked. The Emperor watched as the team tackled a complex issue with the navigation computer. Instead of one person making the decision, they discussed the problem together, each contributing their expertise. Hiram understood the programming, Doyon knew the hardware, and together they found a solution that neither could have achieved alone. "This is remarkable," the Emperor thought to himself. In Zephyrian culture, each individual was expected to excel in their chosen field. Collaboration was seen as a sign of weakness, an admission that one's personal skills were inadequate. But these humans had turned collaboration into a strength. He watched Minho explain engine theory to Kisiok, not to show off his knowledge but to help his teammate understand how the hull modifications would affect power distribution. He saw Nari teaching Hiram about weapons targeting systems, sharing military knowledge that could help with computer integration. Most amazing of all, he observed how they handled mistakes. When Doyon accidentally corrupted a section of navigation data, the team rallied around him to fix the problem. There was no blame, no punishment, just immediate support and practical solutions. They make each other stronger, the Emperor realized. We make each other compete. For 3 days, Emperor Vaxlan watched the human team complete their restoration work. He saw them add safety features that Imperial engineers had never considered necessary. He watched them install backup systems that would prevent single-point failures. He observed them testing every component multiple times to ensure perfect reliability. But most importantly, he saw them improve his ship not for glory or recognition, but because they took pride in doing their best work. They treated his flagship with the same care they would give to any project, because excellence was their standard, not their exception. On the final day, as the team prepared to hand over the completed ship, Emperor Vaxlan made his decision. It was time to reveal himself. The humans were gathered on the ship's bridge, conducting final systems checks, when the air in front of them began to shimmer. Slowly, a figure materialized from invisibility, tall and imposing in robes that seemed to contain starlight. Guan's team froze in terror. They had studied galactic history enough to recognize the most powerful being in the known universe. Emperor Vaxlan stood before them, his ancient eyes studying their faces with keen intelligence. "Your Imperial Majesty," Guan managed to say, dropping to one knee. His team followed his example, their hearts racing with fear. "Rise," the Emperor said, his voice carrying gentle authority. "You have done work worthy of honor, not subservience." The humans stood slowly, still trembling. They expected execution, imprisonment, or at best exile to some distant world. Instead, the Emperor moved to the main console and placed his hands on the controls they had so carefully restored. "This ship was my home for 3 centuries, he said softly. "When I lost it, I thought I had lost part of myself. But you have given it back to me better than it was before." "We didn't know it was yours," Majesty Hiram whispered. "We would never have presumed to modify Imperial technology if we had known." "And yet your modifications are brilliant," the Emperor replied. "You have solved problems that my engineers declared unsolvable. You have added capabilities that we never imagined." He turned to face them fully, and his expression was not angry but curious. "Tell me, how did you accomplish this? How did 5 mechanics from a frontier world succeed where the Empire's greatest minds had failed?" Minho found his voice first. "We worked together, Majesty. Each of us knew different things, and we shared what we knew." "You shared knowledge freely?" the Emperor asked, without regard for personal advancement or recognition. "Of course," Kisiok said, confused by the question. "The job was too big for any one person. We all had to contribute. And when someone made a mistake, we fixed it together," Nari said simply. "Mistakes happen. What matters is solving the problem." The Emperor nodded slowly, beginning to understand. These humans had achieved excellence, not through individual brilliance but through collective effort. They had enhanced his ship because they brought together different skills and perspectives, creating solutions that no single mind could have conceived. "You have restored more than my ship," he said thoughtfully. "You have shown me something I had forgotten. The power of working together toward a common goal." Doyon stepped forward hesitantly. "Majesty, what happens to us now? We know we've seen things we weren't supposed to see." The Emperor smiled, an expression that transformed his ageless features. "What happens now is that you face a choice. You have proven yourselves capable of working with the most advanced technology in the galaxy. You have shown innovation, dedication, and remarkable skill." He paused, letting his words sink in. "I offer you positions as Imperial engineers, with rank, wealth, and status beyond your current dreams. You would work on projects that shape the future of the galaxy, with resources limited only by your imagination." The team exchanged glances, hardly daring to believe what they were hearing. "Or," the Emperor continued, "you may return to your simple lives here, with compensation for your excellent work and my gratitude for the return of my ship." Guan looked at his team, seeing the same thought reflected in all their faces. "We had built something here together, something worth preserving." "Majesty," Guan said carefully, "might there be a third option?" Emperor Vaxlan raised an eyebrow at Guan's question, his ancient eyes showing interest. "A third option? Tell me what you have in mind." Guan took a deep breath, knowing that his next words would determine the future for his entire team. "Majesty, we appreciate your generous offers, but we've built something special here. We work well together, and we understand each other. What if we could continue working as a team, but on projects that serve the Empire?" "You wish to remain together?" the Emperor asked. "Yes, Majesty. We've learned that we accomplish more as a group than any of us could alone. But we also want to share what we've learned. Could we perhaps establish a training center here, a place where human and Imperial engineers could work together and learn from each other?" The emperor was quiet for a long moment, considering the proposal. In his 1,000 years of rule, no one had ever suggested such a thing. The empire had always maintained strict separation between species, each contributing their specialized skills but never truly collaborating. "You believe that imperial engineers could benefit from human methods?" he asked. "And we could certainly learn from imperial knowledge," Hiram added respectfully. "Your technology is far beyond anything we've seen, but maybe our different approaches could complement each other." Minho stepped forward nervously. "Majesty, when we worked on your ship, we didn't try to replace your technology. We just added our own ideas alongside it. Both approaches worked better together, like the backup systems," Kisiok explained. "Your original design was perfect for normal operations. Our additions make it perfect for emergency situations too." Emperor Vaxlon moved to the bridge's main view screen, looking out at the modest workshop below. These humans had taken his most prized possession and made it better through teamwork and innovation. They had shown him possibilities he had never considered. "Admiral Thexvar," the Emperor said into his communication device, "prepare a construction fleet. We will be building something new on this world." The humans looked at each other with hope and excitement, hardly believing their proposal was being accepted. "But first," the Emperor continued, turning back to them, "you must demonstrate that your methods can be taught. I will send a team of Imperial engineers to work with you on a test project. If they can learn to collaborate as you do, then we will proceed with your academy." 3 months later, the transformation of Kepler-442b was remarkable. Where once there had been only a small workshop, now stood a magnificent complex of laboratories, classrooms, and testing facilities. The Imperial Engineering Academy rose from the planet's surface like a crystal mountain, its architecture blending human practicality with imperial grandeur. G1 stood in his new office, watching through the window as mixed teams of humans and aliens worked together on various projects. The sight still amazed him. Zephyrian engineers with their forearms worked alongside human mechanics. Crystalline beings from the Andromeda sector shared knowledge with Earth-trained specialists. "How are our first class of students doing?" Emperor Vaxlon asked, entering the office quietly. "Better than we hoped," Majesty Giwan replied, pulling up progress reports on his computer. "The initial resistance to collaborative methods is breaking down. Your engineers are brilliant individually, but they're discovering they can be even more brilliant together." The Emperor nodded, pleased. He had been visiting the academy regularly, fascinated by the results. Imperial productivity had increased by 30% across all projects where the new collaborative methods were applied, and the humans they're learning faster than we ever imagined possible, Giwan said with pride. "Access to Imperial knowledge has accelerated our technological development by centuries." They walked together through the academy halls, observing classes in session. In one laboratory, Minho was teaching engine theory to a mixed group of species, demonstrating how human intuitive problem-solving could enhance mathematical precision. In another room, Hiram worked with Imperial computer specialists to develop new artificial intelligence protocols that combined logical processing with creative thinking. Kisiok had become the head of structural engineering, developing new construction techniques that merged Imperial materials science with human architectural innovation. His department had already designed 3 new classes of starships that were both more efficient and more durable than previous models. Nari ran the defense systems division, where former military personnel from dozens of species learned to integrate different combat philosophies and technologies. Her classes were among the most popular in the academy. Dojan managed the navigation and communication department, where imperial precision met human adaptability to create systems that could function in any environment or situation. "They have exceeded every expectation," the Emperor observed, watching a Zephyrian engineer explain a concept to a human student with patience and enthusiasm. "They're natural teachers, Majesty. They want others to succeed as much as they want to succeed themselves." That evening, the Emperor stood on the bridge of his restored flagship, which now served as his personal transport when visiting the academy. The ship had become a symbol of what cooperation could achieve. Its hull bore modifications designed by dozens of species working together. Its systems incorporated the best ideas from across the galaxy. Admiral Vexfer joined him on the bridge, reviewing reports from across the Empire. "Majesty, productivity continues to increase on every world where Academy graduates have been assigned. The collaborative methods are spreading throughout the fleet and the other species. How do they respond to these changes?" "With enthusiasm. Mostly, the Andromedae have requested their own Academy campus. The Rigel Collective wants to send 1,000 students. Even the isolated Vega Republic has expressed interest." Emperor Vaxlon smiled, remembering his first encounter with the human mechanics. They had been terrified, convinced they would be punished for their presumption. Instead, they had taught him the most valuable lesson of his long reign, that true strength came not from individual excellence but from collective achievement. "Schedule a meeting with the Academy directors," he commanded. "It is time to expand." This program galaxy-wide. Months turned to years, and the Imperial Engineering Academy grew into a network of campuses across dozens of worlds. The collaborative methods pioneered by 5 human mechanics became the standard throughout the Empire. Species that had worked in isolation for millennia learned to share knowledge and pool their talents. Guan, now director of the Academy Network, often returned to the original campus on Kepler-4 for to be. The humble workshop where it all began had been preserved as a monument, but it was still functional. Sometimes he would work there alone, remembering the desperate day when they had accepted an anonymous contract just to pay their bills. "Any regrets?" Minho asked one day, finding Ji-won in the old workshop about changing the galaxy. Ji-won laughed. "No regrets at all, even though we never did get paid for that original contract." Ji-won gestured toward the Academy complex visible through the workshop's windows. "I think we got paid better than we ever imagined." The five friends often met in the original workshop, maintaining their tradition of working together even as their responsibilities had grown beyond anything they could have dreamed. They had started as simple mechanics trying to save their business. They had become the foundation of a new era of galactic cooperation. Emperor Vaxlon visited them there sometimes, setting aside his imperial robes to work alongside them on small projects. He had learned that the best ideas often came from the simplest environments, where people could focus on solving problems rather than maintaining status. The empire had grown stronger, not through conquest or intimidation, but through the revolutionary concept that different species working together could achieve more than any species working alone. The human mechanics had given the galaxy something more valuable than any technology. They had given it a new way of thinking about what was possible, and it all began with five mechanics who needed work, a mysterious contract, and a ship that carried the dreams of an empire. They had restored more than a starship. They had restored the galaxy's faith in the power of working together toward a common goal. The Emperor's ship still flew among the stars, but now it carried crews of many species, all united by the knowledge that their differences made them stronger. And in a small workshop on Kepler-4 for 2b, five friends continued to work together, proving every day that the simplest ideas could change the universe.